Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed two people with the same income, the same background, but one looks confident, respected, powerful, and the other looks helpless, ignored, invisible? The difference is not money. The difference is mindset. Because poverty is not always in the wallet. Sometimes it lives in the way we talk, the way we think, the way we carry ourselves. You see, when a person looks poor in attitude, even riches don't stay. But when a person thinks rich in character, even limited resources create unlimited respect. Today, I don't want to teach you how to earn more. I want to teach you something far more powerful. Never look poor, not in thoughts, not in words, not in self-respect. Because the world doesn't treat you based on what you have. It treats you based on what you project. Never beg for attention. This is not just a statement, it is a way of living. When a person begins to beg for attention through words, behavior, emotions, or even silence, they slowly lose their inner power. Attention that is begged for never comes with respect. It may come with sympathy, curiosity, or temporary interest, but never with dignity. And a life lived without dignity, no matter how successful it looks from the outside, feels empty on the inside. Think about it deeply. Why do we beg for attention? Because somewhere inside we doubt our own worth. We start believing that if others do not notice us, we are not valuable. So we talk louder than necessary. We explain more than required. We share pain with people who never asked. We try to prove our importance instead of living it. And in this process, we slowly teach the world how to treat us. A confident person does not announce their presence. They enter the room and their energy speaks. Not because they demand attention, but because they are comfortable within themselves. When you are at peace with who you are, people feel it. They may not understand it, but they respect it. Respect is always attracted to self-assurance, never to desperation. Begging for attention often wears many masks. Sometimes it looks like constant messaging and calling. Sometimes it looks like posting everything online, hoping someone will notice, like, comment or validate. Sometimes it looks like emotional outbursts, unnecessary arguments, or dramatic silence. But the root is the same, a hunger to be seen. And hunger, when visible, always makes a person look poor. There is nothing wrong with wanting connection. Humans are emotional beings. We all want to be heard, understood, and valued. But there is a thin line between healthy connection and unhealthy dependence. When your happiness depends on how quickly someone replies, how others react, or how much attention you receive, you are giving away control of your peace. And when peace is outsourced, self-respect slowly disappears. The truth is, the world is busy. People are occupied with their own struggles, fears, and ambitions. When you beg for attention, you are asking them to stop their world for you. But when you build value within yourself, people naturally make space for you in their world. One approach drains you, the other empowers you. Silence, when chosen consciously, is powerful. A person who can stay silent without feeling ignored is a person who has mastered their emotions. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't panic when they are not included. They don't feel small when they are not praised. They understand that their worth is not decided by external noise. Attention that comes naturally is a byproduct of authenticity. When you work on yourself, improve your character, sharpen your skills, and remain grounded, people notice. Not because you ask them to, but because excellence cannot hide. A flower does not beg the bee to come. It simply blooms. Many people believe that being loud makes them important. But history shows us the opposite. The most impactful individuals were often calm, composed, and deeply rooted in self-belief. They didn't run after attention. Attention followed them because they stood for something and they stood firmly. When you stop begging for attention, something beautiful happens. You become selective. You stop oversharing. You stop explaining your pain to people who cannot heal it. You stop lowering your standards just to feel included. And slowly, you start attracting people who value you not for your noise, but for your presence. Remember this deeply: the moment you feel the urge to beg for attention, pause. Ask yourself, what am I trying to prove? Most of the time, you are trying to prove your worth to someone who has not earned the right to judge it. And that realization alone can change the way you carry yourself. Never beg for attention, because attention that is chased makes you look needy, but attention that is earned makes you look powerful. When you know your value, you don't chase people, you attract them. And that is the true meaning of never looking poor, not in money, but in mindset, posture, and self-respect. Complaining is one of the most silent ways people give away their power. It does not arrive loudly at first. It begins softly, disguised as sharing, as venting, as just talking. But over time, it becomes a habit, and habits shape identity. A person who complains too much may not realize it, but they slowly train their mind to focus only on what is missing, what is unfair, and what is not working. And when the mind becomes conditioned this way, even abundance feels like scarcity. Every complaint carries a message. It tells the world, I feel helpless. Even if the words are justified, repeated complaints paint a picture of weakness. People may listen once, maybe twice, but eventually they stop taking you seriously. Not because your problems are small, but because your energy is heavy. No one is inspired by someone who constantly talks about what is wrong. And inspiration, not sympathy, is what commands respect. Complaining also robs you of presence. When your mind is busy replaying problems, you are not fully living. You may be physically present, but mentally trapped in dissatisfaction. This creates a strange poverty, one where opportunities pass by unnoticed because your attention is locked onto discomfort. Many people have enough in life, but they never feel it simply because they keep counting what they lack instead of using what they have. There is a difference between expressing pain and feeding negativity. Sharing a concern to find a solution is healthy. Repeating the same complaint without taking responsibility is emotional bankruptcy. It drains not only the listener, but the speaker as well. Each time you complain, you strengthen the problem's grip on your mind. You give it space, importance, and energy. And whatever you give energy to grows. Think about how complaining affects your self-image. When you repeatedly describe yourself as unlucky, misunderstood, or always struggling, your subconscious starts believing it. Slowly, you begin to act like that person. You expect things to go wrong. You stop trying with full effort. You lower your standards without noticing. And then life responds accordingly, reinforcing the very story you keep telling. Strong people feel pain too. They face injustice, failure, and disappointment like everyone else. The difference is not that they have fewer problems, but that they do not make their problems their personality. They choose silence over noise, action over argument, and acceptance over resistance. This choice makes them look composed, even in chaos, and composure is always associated with strength. Complaining also damages relationships. When every conversation turns into a list of frustrations, people begin to associate you with negativity. They may still care, but they subconsciously avoid deep interactions with you. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-protection. No one wants to constantly absorb emotional weight they cannot change. And when people start distancing themselves, the complainer often complains even more, creating a painful cycle. Life will never be perfect. If perfection is your condition for peace, you will never be peaceful. Complaining is often an attempt to control life's uncertainty. But life does not respond to resistance, it responds to alignment. When you accept what is and work quietly toward what can be changed, you regain control. When you complain about what is, you surrender control. There is dignity in endurance. A person who can go through difficulty without announcing it to everyone carries a quiet richness within them. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It means choosing the right space, the right time, and the right intention when you speak. Wisdom is not about silence alone, but about selective expression. When you reduce complaining, your language changes. You start asking better questions. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of, "This is unfair," you say, "What is my next step?" These small shifts reshape your reality. Your mind becomes a tool, not a prison. Complaining makes even a rich person look poor because it reveals inner scarcity. Gratitude, responsibility, and calm make even a struggling person look wealthy in spirit. When you stop complaining, you don't deny pain, you rise above it. And in that rise, you reclaim your strength, your respect, and your peace. Dressing with self-respect is not about brands, price tags, or trying to impress anyone. It is about how you honor yourself when you step into the world. Clothes are not just fabric, they are a silent language. Before you speak, before you act, before you even smile, your appearance has already communicated something about how you see yourself. And the world responds accordingly. Many people confuse self-respect with show-off. They believe that looking expensive makes them valuable, so they chase labels, copy trends, and dress for attention rather than comfort and dignity. But true confidence never shouts, it whispers. A person who is secure does not need to advertise their worth through clothes. They dress neatly, appropriately, and thoughtfully, not to impress others, but to feel aligned with themselves. There is a big difference between simplicity and carelessness. Simplicity is intentional. Carelessness is neglect. Dressing with self-respect means you care about how you present yourself, even when no one important is watching. It means your clothes are clean, well-fitted, and suitable for the situation. You are not trying to stand out, but you are not hiding either. You are simply being present as you are. When you dress only to impress, your happiness becomes fragile. The moment someone else looks better, richer, or more fashionable, insecurity rises, comparison begins. And comparison is a thief. It steals peace, confidence, and joy. But when you dress for self-respect, comparison loses its power. You are comfortable because you are not competing. You are expressing, not performing. Your outer appearance has a subtle effect on your inner state. When you dress with care, your posture improves. Your body language changes. You walk with more stability. You speak with more clarity. This is not imagination, it is psychology. How you treat your body influences how your mind behaves. Dressing well for yourself sends a message inward, I matter, and that message strengthens you from within. Self-respect also means knowing your environment. What you wear should reflect awareness, not ego. Dressing appropriately for the occasion shows emotional intelligence. It tells others that you understand boundaries, culture, and context. This awareness earns silent respect. People may not consciously praise it, but they feel it. And feelings shape judgments more than words ever do. Some people overdress to hide insecurity. Others underdress to appear careless or rebellious. Both extremes are reactions, not choices. Self-respect lies in balance. You don't need luxury to look dignified. You need intention. Even simple clothes, when worn with cleanliness and confidence, look graceful. And even the most expensive outfit, when worn with arrogance or desperation, looks cheap. Dressing with self-respect also means not seeking validation through appearance. When you dress only to be noticed, your confidence depends on reactions. A compliment lifts you. Silence disappoints you. Criticism breaks you. But when you dress for yourself, reactions lose control over your emotions. You feel steady whether people notice or not. That steadiness is power. Your appearance should support your purpose, not distract from it. If your clothes scream for attention, your message becomes weak. But when your appearance is calm, your words carry more weight. People listen more. They trust more. Because your energy is not scattered trying to prove something. It is grounded. Respect yourself enough to show up properly. This does not mean perfection. It means effort. Ironed clothes, clean shoes, and a composed look are not about others. They are a discipline for the self. Small disciplines create big transformations. When you take care of small details, your mind learns order, and order creates clarity. In difficult times, dressing with self-respect becomes even more important. It is easy to neglect yourself when life feels heavy, but showing up with dignity during struggle sends a powerful message to your own soul. I may be struggling, but I am not defeated. This inner message builds resilience. Never underestimate the power of quiet elegance. It doesn't chase attention, yet it is always noticed. It doesn't demand respect, yet it receives it. When you dress with self-respect, you are not trying to look rich, you are trying to feel whole. And wholeness always looks richer than any brand could ever make you look. Speaking less and speaking with clarity is a rare strength. Most people believe that the more they talk, the more important they appear. In reality, excessive talking often exposes insecurity. When words flow without direction, they lose weight. And when words lose weight, the speaker loses impact. Clarity, not quantity, is what makes communication powerful. Over-explaining is usually born from fear, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of not being accepted, or the fear of not being valued. So people keep adding words, examples, justifications, and emotions, hoping that somewhere in the overflow, they will be understood. But the opposite happens. The listener becomes tired, confused, or disengaged. What could have been said in one calm sentence turns into a long explanation that weakens the message. A person who is clear about their thoughts does not rush to speak. They pause. They choose words carefully. They understand that silence is not emptiness, it is space. Space gives meaning to words. When you speak only when necessary, people pay attention. When you speak all the time, even important words are ignored. Speaking less does not mean being silent out of fear. It means being silent out of control. There is a big difference. Silence that comes from fear is heavy and uncomfortable. Silence that comes from confidence is peaceful and grounding. It says, I don't need to fill the room with noise to prove my presence. That kind of silence carries authority. Clarity also reflects inner order. When the mind is cluttered, speech becomes cluttered. Thoughts jump from one idea to another. Emotions leak into words, and the message loses direction. But when the mind is calm, speech becomes simple. Simple speech does not confuse, it connects. It reaches directly to the point without unnecessary decoration. Many people feel the urge to explain themselves again and again. They believe that if they just say it one more time, in a different way, others will finally understand. But self-respect begins when you realize that not everyone needs to understand you. Some misunderstandings are not due to lack of explanation, but lack of willingness to listen. Over-explaining to such people is a waste of energy. When you speak with clarity, you are also setting boundaries. You are saying what you mean and meaning what you say. No extra drama, no emotional leakage. This makes others take you seriously. People respect those who communicate cleanly because clean communication shows emotional maturity. Notice how powerful individuals speak. Their words are measured. Their tone is steady. They do not rush to respond. They do not interrupt unnecessarily. They are comfortable with pauses. These pauses are not weakness, they are strength. A pause shows that you are thinking, not reacting. And thinking always looks richer than reacting. Excessive talking often comes from the need to be liked. When people want approval, they try to entertain, impress, or justify themselves through words. But approval gained this way is unstable. The more you talk to be liked, the more you depend on others' reactions. Clarity frees you from this dependence. When you speak clearly, you speak from alignment, not approval seeking. Clarity also protects you from regret. Words spoken in haste often need apology later. Words spoken in calm rarely do. When you speak less, you give yourself time to choose better responses. And better responses build better relationships, better reputations, and better self-respect. Listening is a hidden part of speaking with clarity. When you listen deeply, you understand what needs to be said and what doesn't. Many conflicts exist only because too much was said when very little was needed. A calm, clear sentence at the right moment can prevent hours of misunderstanding. Speaking less does not reduce your importance, it increases it. People begin to notice when you speak because it is not constant. Your words gain value because they are rare. Like gold, rarity increases worth. And when your words carry clarity, they leave an impression long after the conversation ends. In a world full of noise, clarity is luxury. It makes you stand out without trying. It makes you look composed, confident, and grounded. When you learn to speak less and speak clearly, you stop wasting energy on unnecessary explanations and start communicating with purpose. And that quiet precision makes you look rich in wisdom, not poor in insecurity. Chasing validation is one of the most exhausting habits a person can develop. It quietly controls decisions, emotions, and even self-worth. When you constantly seek approval from others, you hand them the power to define how you feel about yourself. A compliment lifts you up, a neutral response confuses you, and criticism crushes you. This emotional dependence is subtle, but it slowly weakens your inner foundation. The desire for validation often begins early in life. We are praised when we perform well and corrected when we don't. Over time, the mind learns a dangerous lesson. I am worthy only when I am approved. This belief follows many people into adulthood. They work not for fulfillment, but for applause. They speak not from truth, but from what will be liked. And they live not from conviction, but from fear of rejection. When you chase validation, your actions stop being authentic. You adjust yourself to fit expectations. You silence parts of your personality to avoid disapproval. You say yes when you want to say no. Slowly, you drift away from who you really are. And the more you abandon yourself, the emptier you feel, even if the world is applauding. Validation is addictive because it feels good. A compliment releases pleasure. Recognition feels like success. But like any addiction, the effect is temporary. Soon, you need more praise, more attention, more acknowledgement. And when it doesn't come, anxiety takes over. This cycle creates inner poverty, a constant hunger that is never fully satisfied. People who do not chase validation move differently. They are calm because their worth is not up for negotiation. They don't panic when they are misunderstood. They don't feel the urge to explain themselves to everyone. They know that approval does not equal truth. Sometimes, doing the right thing brings criticism, not applause, and they are at peace with that. When you stop seeking validation, you start listening to your own inner voice. This voice may be quiet at first because it has been ignored for a long time. But as you honor it, it grows stronger. You begin making choices that align with your values, not with trends. And alignment brings peace, a peace that no external approval can give. Chasing validation also affects how others treat you. People sense neediness, even when it is hidden. When you seek approval, your energy changes. You become overly agreeable or defensive. This makes others subconsciously lose respect. Ironically, the more you try to be liked, the less seriously you are taken. Respect is never begged for, it is felt. Self-validation is not arrogance. It does not mean ignoring feedback or believing you are always right. It means you measure yourself by your integrity, effort, and growth, not by applause. You are open to learning, but you are not emotionally dependent on opinions. You listen, reflect, and decide for yourself. When validation stops being your fuel, freedom begins. You are no longer afraid of silence. You are no longer shaken by criticism. You are no longer addicted to praise. You do what feels right, even if it is unpopular. This courage may not make you famous, but it will make you grounded. Many people live their entire lives performing for an audience that is not even watching. They exhaust themselves trying to meet expectations that keep changing. When you step out of this performance, life becomes simpler. You stop proving, you start being. And being is always richer than performing. The strongest form of confidence is quiet acceptance of yourself. It says, I know who I am, and I am working on who I want to become. This mindset makes external validation unnecessary. Appreciation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. When you stop chasing validation, you reclaim your power. Your energy returns to you. Your decisions become clearer. Your peace becomes stable. And that stability changes how you walk, talk, and live. The world may or may not applaud, but you will stand firm. And that firmness is the true wealth that makes a person never look poor. Investing in character before comfort is a decision that shapes the direction of an entire life. Comfort feels good in the moment, but character carries you when comfort disappears. Many people chase ease, pleasure, and convenience, believing that a comfortable life is a successful life. But comfort without character slowly weakens the mind. It creates dependence, excuses, and emotional fragility. When challenges arrive, and they always do, those who invested only in comfort find themselves unprepared. Character is built in moments where comfort is delayed. Waking up when it's easier to sleep, staying disciplined when it's tempting to relax, choosing honesty when lying would be more convenient. These small, uncomfortable choices form the foundation of inner strength. They don't always bring immediate rewards, but they create something far more valuable: self-trust. And a person who trusts themselves stands firm even when life shakes. Comfort trains the mind to avoid pain. Character trains the mind to endure it. A comfort-driven life asks, what feels good now? A character-driven life asks, what will make me stronger later? This difference in questioning determines growth. Growth never comes from staying comfortable. It comes from stretching, resisting, and sometimes suffering silently. Not suffering for drama, but suffering for discipline. When people invest too early in comfort, they lose resilience. Small inconveniences feel unbearable. Minor criticism feels personal. Simple delays cause frustration. The mind becomes sensitive because it has not been trained to face difficulty. On the other hand, a person who has invested in character develops emotional thickness. They don't break easily, they bend, adjust, and recover. Character is invisible, but its effects are visible everywhere. It shows in how someone reacts under pressure. It shows in how they treat others when no one is watching. It shows in how they keep promises, especially the ones made to themselves. Comfort can make you look successful temporarily, but character makes you dependable long term. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle discomfort. When you have faced hardship and survived, you stop fearing uncertainty. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't panic when plans fail. You trust your ability to adapt. This trust cannot be bought. It is earned through consistent effort and self-discipline. Investing in character also means resisting shortcuts. Shortcuts often lead to comfort, but they steal growth. When you avoid effort, you avoid learning. When you avoid learning, you avoid maturity. Character demands patience. It asks you to do the right thing even when no one is clapping. This inner alignment brings peace that comfort alone can never provide. Comfort is temporary. Situations change. Money fluctuates. Health shifts. Relationships evolve. When life removes comfort, what remains is character. If character is weak, everything collapses. If character is strong, you rebuild. That is why character is true security. It does not depend on circumstances. It creates stability within instability. People who prioritize character are often misunderstood. They may seem strict, old-fashioned, or too disciplined. But when storms come, they are the ones others lean on. Because strength attracts trust. And trust is the highest form of respect. Investing in character does not mean rejecting joy. It means earning it. Joy that comes after effort is deeper. Rest that follows discipline is sweeter. Comfort enjoyed after character building does not weaken you, it rewards you. The problem is not comfort itself, but comfort without foundation. Every time you choose growth over ease, you deposit into your character. Every time you choose responsibility over convenience, you strengthen your spine. These deposits compound. Over time, they create a person who does not crumble under pressure, does not complain excessively, and does not look poor in spirit. A life built on character may feel harder in the beginning, but it becomes easier in the long run. A life built on comfort may feel easy in the beginning, but it becomes unbearable later. The choice is always yours. Invest in what will hold you when comfort fades. Invest in character, and comfort will follow naturally without weakening you. Comparing your journey with someone else's is one of the fastest ways to feel poor on the inside. It quietly steals peace, confidence, and gratitude, even when life is going well. Comparison rarely begins with hatred, it begins with observation. You notice where someone else is, what they have achieved, how fast they are moving, and suddenly your own path feels slow, insufficient, or wrong. This mental shift happens subtly, but its impact is deep. Every journey is shaped by different circumstances, timings, strengths, and lessons. No two lives unfold the same way. When you compare, you ignore this truth. You measure your chapter 1 against someone else's chapter 10. You compare your behind the scenes struggles with someone else's highlight moments. This creates a false narrative that you are falling behind even when you are exactly where you need to be. Comparison also creates unnecessary pressure. You start rushing decisions, not because you are ready, but because you feel late. You choose paths that don't align with you simply because others seem to be succeeding there. In trying to catch up to someone else's life, you drift away from your own purpose. And when purpose is lost, progress feels empty. The mind is not designed to run two races at once. When you constantly watch others, your focus scatters. Energy that should be invested in growth is spent on measuring, doubting, and judging. This mental noise slows you down. Ironically, comparison not only makes you feel behind, it actually puts you behind. One of the cruel effects of comparison is that it makes you blind to your own progress. You forget how far you've come because you are too busy looking at how far someone else is. You overlook small wins. You minimize your effort. And over time, motivation weakens because nothing feels enough. A person who cannot acknowledge their own growth will never feel rich in achievement. Comparison also damages self-trust. You begin to question your pace, your choices, and your abilities. You stop listening to your intuition and start copying others. But copying never leads to fulfillment. What works for someone else may not work for you. Different lives require different rhythms. When you ignore your rhythm, exhaustion follows. Social exposure has made comparison more intense than ever. People showcase success, happiness, and confidence, but rarely show struggle, fear, or confusion. Consuming these images without context creates illusion. You compare your full reality with someone else's edited moment. An illusion always leads to dissatisfaction. There is dignity in moving at your own pace. Some lessons can only be learned slowly. Some strengths are built through delays. What feels like stagnation is often preparation. When you rush this phase because of comparison, you miss the depth of growth it offers. And shallow growth collapses easily. Freedom begins when you realize that life is not a competition. Someone else's success does not reduce your potential. Another person's speed does not invalidate your direction. There is enough space for everyone to grow, succeed, and find meaning. But this truth is only visible when comparison ends. When you stop comparing, gratitude naturally increases. You begin to see what is working instead of what is missing. Gratitude shifts the mind from scarcity to abundance. And abundance, even in small amounts, creates confidence. Confidence grows faster in gratitude than in jealousy. Your journey has its own timing. Some people bloom early, others bloom late. Both are natural. A tree that grows slowly often stands stronger. If you keep comparing your timeline, you will constantly feel late, even when you are on time for your own life. Let others inspire you, not define you. Inspiration uplifts, comparison drains. Inspiration says, if they can do it, so can I. Comparison says, why am I not there yet? One builds energy, the other destroys it. Choose wisely. When you walk your path with focus, patience, and trust, you stop feeling poor in progress. You begin to feel rich in direction, and direction is more important than speed. Stay committed to your journey. Honor your pace, because the moment you stop comparing, you start living fully, and living fully is the greatest success of all. Strong boundaries are a quiet form of self-respect. They are not loud, aggressive, or dramatic. They do not need constant explanation or justification. They simply exist, firm and clear, shaping how others are allowed to treat you. When boundaries are weak, even kind people can slowly begin to disrespect you. Not always intentionally, but gradually, because human behavior follows what is permitted. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear conflict or rejection. They worry that saying no will make them appear rude, selfish, or difficult. So they stay silent, they tolerate discomfort, they adjust repeatedly. But what they don't realize is that every time they ignore their own limits, they teach others that their needs come last. Over time, this pattern creates resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Weak boundaries often come from the desire to be liked. You say yes when you want to say no. You tolerate behavior that makes you uncomfortable. You accept disrespect in the name of peace. But peace that costs self-respect is not peace, it is submission. And submission slowly erodes confidence. People who lack boundaries often feel drained without knowing why. Their energy is constantly pulled by others' demands, expectations, and moods. They feel responsible for keeping everyone happy. But this responsibility is unrealistic and unfair. You are not meant to manage other people's emotions at the cost of your own well-being. Strong boundaries create clarity. They let others know where you stand without hostility. A clear boundary does not push people away, it filters them. Those who respect you will adjust. Those who don't will reveal themselves. And this revelation, though sometimes painful, is valuable. It shows you who deserves access to your time and energy. Setting boundaries does not require long explanations. Over-explaining often weakens a boundary. A simple, calm refusal is enough. When you explain too much, you invite negotiation. Boundaries are not debates, they are decisions. Confidence in your tone matters more than length in your words. People may resist your boundaries at first, especially if they benefited from your silence before. This resistance is not a sign that your boundary is wrong. It is a sign that it is working. Growth often disrupts comfort, both yours and others. Staying firm during this phase builds self-trust. Boundaries also protect your emotional space. Not every comment deserves a reaction. Not every criticism deserves an explanation. Learning when to disengage is a form of maturity. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. Silence, in some situations, is the strongest boundary. When you respect your own boundaries, you walk differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself with a certain calm that others can feel. This calm is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are no longer internally conflicted because your actions match your values. Healthy boundaries also deepen relationships. They prevent resentment from building. They create mutual respect. When expectations are clear, misunderstandings reduce. Relationships become lighter, not heavier. Contrary to popular belief, boundaries don't break connections, unclear boundaries do. Boundaries require consistency. Setting a boundary once and then breaking it confuses others and weakens your credibility. Each time you enforce a boundary calmly, you strengthen it. Over time, people learn how to treat you without reminders.